Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is March 10th, 2023. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, high hopes. As for me, I would say I'm doing pretty good. Um, Work went fast, and I like that. I like when you have like a work day that didn't feel like it dragged along. I gotta say, and we'll just kind of go right into food corner. It's probably because of my meal. Like sometimes you just have a meal so good that it just you have like a ratatouille moment. Like, and I'm not saying it's that deep for this, but like I like this about food. I like the magic of that is food. That if a meal hits a certain kind of spot, it could be at a dive bar, it could be at like some fine dining restaurant, whatever. It's just so good, and you're just like, oh my god, I can't believe life is like this. I can't believe we can like do this as people just by like heating up some food. It's crazy. I don't know. I find food to be amazing. So anyway, um, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. I had buffalo wings and rings. I'm realizing that it doesn't sound that spectacular now that I've like, chalked up the glory that is food. And like, yeah, I just got wings. But I really wanted some bone-in wings, y'all. So that was the quest. And I finally just, ordered some. And I got 5 buffalo wings. I got 5 of the bourbon barbecue. And I also got some pretzel nugs, which I love some pretzels. And it had like a jalapeno cheese. So I gotta say, it's pretty yummy. Overall, enjoyed the pretzel bites. Those are good. The wings also good. I've had buffalo wings and rings before. It's not like a new thing to me, but it was just nice. It hit the spot. It was really yummo. And I got blue cheese as well. Also, I know I'm kind of going deep here once again on wings. I'm trying to do the thing now where you like, especially with like with the flats, where you like push down on the wing and you get the meat. And my hit rate, I want to say, is like, I don't know, out of 5 I can usually get like 2 where I can get, yeah, I did it. And then sometimes I get too messy or whatever. I'm just gonna eat in the normal messy way. But yeah, I really enjoyed today. I'm really happy to be here in podcasting for, you all, the world, the little people, in the interwebs. But yeah, we can go get into some news from the Associated Press. German gunman kills 6 at Hamburg Jehovah's Witness Hall. So, I feel like we've been pretty good with that, not having. I mean, obviously, there's been shootings happening in the world, yada yada yada, but nothing has been too major. But in Hamburg, a gunman stormed a service at his former Jehovah's Witness Hall in Germany, killing 6 before taking his own life after police arrived. Authorities in the port city of Hamburg said. Um, so I mean, this was obviously really sad development, and it is rare for shooting like this to take place in Germany. Actually, I think, and this is a fact I learned this week. Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who's the head of Germany. He was the mayor of this town, so this was something where it was like I guess it really kind of affected him, and he said a little bit more about that. But let's see. 8 people were wounded, including a woman who was 28 weeks pregnant and lost the baby. And obviously, I'm sorry. I should have said trigger warning here. I know sometimes I kind of forget. I don't really give a good intro about what I do. But yeah, definitely a trigger warning for this and a couple other, at least one other. Yeah, but a very sad state of affairs, on top of just, 6 people dying. And then on top of that, 8 people being wounded in the situation. Um, but yeah, and then, of course, the gunman killing himself. I believe that they have identified him as Philip F. And he left voluntarily. He left the church But apparently it wasn't like a clean break. So, he had shown, you know, patterns of anger, aggression, and, it was potentially, suggested that he was psychologically unfit to own a gun. They do go into what his gun was. Also, Philip F. was 35 years old. It was a semi-automatic Heckler and Koch pistol P30 handgun. He fired more than 100 shots during the attack, and eventually, he then goes to put the gun on himself. I believe that that's when the cops actually like come in, so he's aware that the cops are there, and then he just turns it on himself. So I mean, I think that he still would have continued had the cops not intervened. So because they did. But also in this article they do go into a couple other shooting scenarios that had happened before in Germany. But once again, you gotta state that this is like a rare occurrence. This isn't something that happens all the time. They do have like a more restrictive gun policy in Germany, and it's even suggested that they should be even more restrictive. And this is something that's going to be talked about, but it is also stated that it's like, what are we going to do, like, because of this potential warning or tip? Yeah, we know we should be like aware, but just with the laws there was not much we could have done. And I don't know, like I said, I've waffled back and forth on my views on gun control and all that shit. It's a very draining conversation. But yeah, I mean, it's sad, and I definitely don't have any answers here in this podcast. I'm just a dude. But yeah, definitely something I wanted to report and talk about. Well, not report, commentate on, I guess I should say. I'm no reporter. Let's see, we can move on to the next beat. From the Associated Press, Xi awarded third term as president, extending rule. So honestly, I mean, this was kind of an inevitable thing. This wasn't a surprise or anything like that. Literally, the votes were 100-0. Like, I don't know how else to word it. Yeah, he is going to be leader. What is assumed to be for life. Considering that in the Constitution they deleted the whole like term limit, and they didn't add any new limit to it. So like Xi's friendship with Vladimir Putin, there's no limits, baby. We're going for life. At least it looks that way. But yeah. Also, Xi is 69 years old. Nice. I wish I knew how to say nice in Chinese and Mandarin, but I don't. But I don't know. I mean, honestly, I'm sure Ho's mad out there. Maybe that's me being controversial, too spicy, whatever. But yeah, I don't see this as a bad thing. Maybe there are definitely some people who would come for me for saying that, but at the end of the day, I don't know. Like, I do wish that there was more of a balance in the party. At least, from what I've seen and what I've viewed and what I've listened to, it seems that more or less, Xi along the way has cherry picked, who he wants to stand alongside of him. And, since 2013, since he's gotten to power, like, it is very much a tight ship of how loyal are you to me. It's not necessarily of how effective you are in the country and doing what you do. Like, that's great and all. I can deal with whatever, but you have to be loyal to me. You have to toe the line that I want you to toe. So naturally, when we're talking about, like, quote unquote, oh gosh, let's see if I can say the word totalitarian. I can't. Not with the pregame in me. I can't. Totalitarian. There we go. That's the only time I'm going to try to say that. It's one of those things where it can be an unsettling thing because you have this one man at the helm and he's leading the whole fucking parade. At the end of the day, I personally don't think that that's how, you want communism to be, but I always think to myself that this is a model of communism that you have to have, or potentially feel like you have to have, in the world where you have like a whole capitalist hegemon on top of you, constantly telling you, hey, we're fighting. We are in conflict, or whatever we're going to call it, competition, you know? And the whole thing about this being, capitalism versus communism, and we have to suppress the reds, and the fact that vernacular changes, but it's always the same, is why I just don't really. I try just not to have beef with China. I don't know. I maybe that's the wrong take or what have you, but that's where I'm at right now. That's how I view these things. But yeah, like I said, this is to me a little bit of a nothing burger. It's something that, like I said, it's matter of fact. It does go into the details of the who's who. Um, let's see. They talk about what Zhao Lijie, who was named head of National People's Congress. Let's see. And Zhao is 67, a holdover from the previous party Politburo standing committee. The apex of political power in China, headed by Xi. Yada yada yada. Let's see. Then there is Han Jing, who is named to largely ceremonial post of state vice president. So all three of these guys, they took an oath of office with one hand on the copy of the Chinese Constitution. And the session also swore in 14 Congress vice chairpersons. So this is a big move, but like I said, we all knew it was kind of coming. Moving forward, I mean, there are some things that I didn't kind of cover in general because it's just kind of vague posturing. But Xi on down in terms of the spokespeople for the for China, essentially said, hey, the U.S. needs to cool it. They need to cool out. Obviously, paraphrasing here, but they're like, chill out, Johnny. Because, essentially with all the balloon stuff, also the idea that, China is giving, lethal aid or whatever to Russia, yada, yada, yada. So that, was talked about in this article. Thought that was good to mention, even though I kind of, like I said, haven't really talked about that. I try not to bog down the podcast with too much of one thing, even though I gotta say, trains are definitely a new arc that I did not see coming, and that is a spoiler on this episode. But yeah, China things that's happening. I thought it was interesting, so I figured we'd talk about it a little bit, but I don't want to come through all this article on the pod. We can move along. There is an update in the JP Morgan Virgin Islands lawsuit, aka Jess Stanley is a weird fucking creep saga. So from the International Business Times, JP Morgan sues former banker Staley over Jeffrey Epstein ties. So, quick catch up. Jess Staley was a private banking head, and essentially he was secured. He was supposed to handle Jeffrey Epstein pretty much, and there is a whole email correspondence that was found by the Virgin Islands team, getting all their evidence and shit. And it's just this whole fucking thing, this creepy ass deluge of messages of just these two guys just oh man. And they try to use this loose Disney code for the women they're talking about. And when I say women, I'm talking about girls that were being trafficked. But just oh yeah, Snow White was beautiful. Can't wait to see the next one. Is it gonna be Beauty or is it gonna be the Beast? Just weird, cringy, fucking gross, disturbing shit. But they have this email correspondence, and this is brought to light, and obviously this is very damning for JP Morgan, right? But now they're trying to say, you know what? This is fucked up. No, we're right. You're right. This is fucked up. And you know who's to blame? It's not us. It's not our fault. Okay. It's not. What is it? Whoever the CEO is of Chase Bank. It's not all of us, these people who were supervising this guy, and we'd have meetings and we even tried to check him, and he said, no, Jeffrey's cool, Jeffrey's totally cool, he's fine, and we just believed him. But really, he was totally at play here. He was totally at fault. He was compromised, and it's his fault. So they're trying to put him into the lawsuit, literally, in the sense of like, no, you can't sue us, you need to sue him. I'm curious to see how that's going to unfold. I'm definitely not trying to say that this Jess Stanley guy shouldn't be in, because technically this is about JP Morgan. But Jane Doe, number one, who is also an unnamed person in this lawsuit, has named Jess Staley and also implicated him, saying like she's seen him, he was definitely involved. So JP Morgan's also hopping on that as well and saying, look, see, he's culpable. Like, we didn't know that. So, I mean, they're really trying to throw him in the river and try to wash their hands of the situation. But they are fucking guilty. A podcast I was listening to, and I will constantly drop them, they're one of my fucking favorites, and I don't care if people think they're off or whatever. TrueAnon. I listened to an episode where they talked about this shit. And something they mentioned is it's like, do you know the really fucking dumb, sick shit about this? Is the fact that these email correspondence that they had, these weren't on private servers. These weren't on like private emails. They were literally Jeffrey Epstein to Jess Staley on company email. Like, they had access to that if they wanted to. They could supersede it, and maybe they would quote, oh no, there's confidentiality, privacy, whatever. If you have these suspicions, which was noted that they did, they literally said, you know what? Fish too big. Like, that's what they did. Like, it's bullshit to say otherwise. Like, they knew what was happening, in my opinion. That's speculative. It's my opinion, whatever. But, like, how I view it, I just think that's crazy to think otherwise, that they aren't involved in what was happening. Like, these emails were going across their own dudes. Like, that's crazy. So I really hope they get pinned to the fucking wall over this shit. I'm happy to talk about it. I think, is there anything else I wanted to mention? Oh yeah, also Staley resigned as Barclays chief executive in November 2021, which just goes to show that he was still working up until this point. Like, that's wild. Because, I mean, it's 2023 now, but that's like 2 years ago. What the fuck? Amid a dispute with British financial regulators examining his ties to Epstein. Epstein's victims are also suing Dutch Bank AG, where Epstein was a client from 2013 to 2018. Dutch Bank is seeking a dismissal. And I believe that Epstein left once the heat was too hot, and Staley left Chase Bank. So, like, he realized, like, no, I like this guy. This guy's doing what I want. He's courting me the way I want. We're moving money together. Things are happening. Because that's the thing you got to think about then, right? Because if this is all true in this lawsuit and Chase Bank is culpable, they knew, then you really got to think that Epstein washed his money. This fucking dirty ass, gross ass money that he's using for all this fucking shit through Chase Bank and then into a new bank, that he moved here to, Dutch Bank AG. So, I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry about it, but I don't know. Things to chew over, moving along. Chugga 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 chugga. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. From NBC News. Norfolk Southern train derails in Alabama hours before CEO testifies before Congress. This took place in Calhoun County, Alabama. It's 2023, and I have not been this into trains since Thomas the Tank Engine, and I was 4 years old. And I love that. I love Thompson Tank Engine. That was my dude. That was ride or die. And I don't really remember all the rest of the crew, but I vibed with the whole train family. Okay. Um, when they rided, I rode. You feel me? I don't know. So anyway, but fast forward back to now, it is crazy. It's crazy to think about that we have all these derailments. And like I've said before in previous episodes, like yeah, when you do all the grand scheme of things, like all these ones now that we're just looking at them, it seems like a lot, but in the scheme of things, it's a small percentage. But it's crazy to think that you could fix these issues, these important issues that even when you do have these, quote unquote 1% or less, problems, like are very catastrophic, potentially very damning to the areas where they happen at. And often, I gotta tell you, these are Ohio issues. A lot of these are because it's just a very big transit point. In fact, this train that had a derailment actually left from Bellevue, Ohio. Um, I mean, it's crazy. Like you should not be having these. These should be less than less than. Like, God damn it. Especially when all it takes is more money to improve on your trains, make them better, make them more modern, and then also, probably more importantly, I gotta say, increase your staff, increase your safety, go back to more rigorous safety standards, which you have to then have more people for. Essentially, why not invest into the company that is making you the money and doing the service, moving this freight that's very important and vital to the country? No, we'll risk it. Oh, it spills. Oh, we have the money. They would rather spend the money on all these cleanups and all this fucking. I kind of want to say cover up sometimes, especially if we go all the way to the East Palestine situation again. It's just frustrating to now that we're actually looking at it. I feel like as a collective, to be like, dude, like, get on this. And then you just have this Alan Shaw CEO dude. He comes up and he just keeps saying the same shit. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. We're gonna do better. But then when you task them to the things that are like, well, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. We don't really feel like that's actually the issue. That's something that like they just bullshit you. They just do CEO speak, and it's very frustrating. It's very annoying because when we're talking about Elon Musk and it's Twitter, that's fucking one thing. But when we're talking about once again a train railroad, and yes, we are singling out Norfolk Southern a lot, but I'm sure when you go under all these motherfuckers' floorboards, Pacific Union or whatever their name is, CSX, like all of these motherfuckers, they got some shit that they need to work on. They got some shit they need to tighten up. And it just shouldn't be something you shrug off. It shouldn't be something you lobby away. And it's a shame that we're really not going to hold these people to the fire. You know it. I know it. Like, all we're going to do is just say, oh, we'll find them a little harder. That's what we'll do. That's going to fix all this. A fine will fix this. It just won't. They'll pay it. They'll pay the ticket. They don't care. And meanwhile, you just have these trains going sideways, and you just hope and you want to believe that when they say there's no hazardous materials on this one, it's all good. Everything was dumped. It's just maybe a little diesel. Who knows? You hope that's true. You hope it doesn't go into some fucking river or something. You hope it doesn't pollute some shit. I think they said there were some plastic pellets, and then EPA like assures everyone they're like, no, it's fine. It's okay. Like it's gonna be all right. These are just plastic pellets. They're harmless. I don't know, man. Once again, I'm a stupid person. I'm just the guy who is dumb enough to podcast. Okay, I can't tell you, but it just all feels funky. It don't smell right. It never will. And once again, these fat cats just keep getting fatter. These shareholders are being appealed to, so they get their cut instead of investing once again into these trains to make them better, to make them more safe. So yeah, I'm gonna keep talking about it, and I'm sorry. It's China and it's trains, and a hell of a lot of Ohio. All right. I'm all right. I'm gonna take my break, and then we're gonna get into some heavy shit yet again. Ooh. Ooh wee. All right, we're jamming, and we're back. Um, from the Cincinnati Inquirer. Who? Sheriff. Oh, sorry, my little thing got in the way. Sheriff. Mom shot family minutes before deputies arrived to evict them from foreclosed Ohio Township home. So, this is a really sad local story, but Teresa Kane shot her family members, um, killing three of them just minutes before deputies arrived to serve them with eviction papers as they were removed from their foreclosed home. Um, excuse me. This is from Sheriff Steve Leahy on Thursday. The the eviction was a culmination of a long history of financial problems for the family that appears to be the motive of the murder suicide that left a total of four relatives dead and a fifth fighting for her life. Um, so yeah, it seems that Teresa Kane was notified about this process, and essentially she says, "Okay, we'll be ready. We'll be packed up, and on the day, we'll go out. There'll be no problems, no worries." And they're like, "Okay, great." The sheriff office, whatever. They contact. After that, they're like, "All right, good." Um, and then they come again, to check out on the day, and they see her on the porch, and she quickly goes inside, and they're like, okay, well, maybe she's gonna go to let us in. Once again, I think they contacted her again before they came up. Seemed like everything was going to be all right. And in an eviction, they do this whole process because they also have like a moving company, whatever, to take away whatever isn't like packed up or whatever. Sometimes in evictions, people will not comply at all. So they will be very forceful about it. And, the sheriffs have to kind of be there to make sure that, hey, we're going to keep the peace. You guys just got to be here, and they're going to move the stuff out, and you guys have to go. You can't be here. Hopefully you have another place. And she indicated, like, hey, we do. So this is all supposed to be A-okay. But she goes inside. They knock. Let's see. I'll read some. A deputy knocked on the front door and then on the back doors. No one answered. The deputy stepped inside the home and called out to her, announcing the sheriff's office had arrived. He heard a muffled "no, no, no," followed by a very fast succession of gunfire. Um, she fired 5 shots in just under 3.5 seconds. Ones they now believe were meant to keep deputies away. And then she turned the gun on herself. So then deputies go inside the home, and I think initially the reports maybe thought, or like it was conveyed that like, oh, maybe she shot them then or whatever, but that's why it said in this article that it seemed like she did that to kind of maybe scare them off, but she had already committed the murders. Um, let's see, they found her dead upstairs along with her 13-year-old son, Ethan Kane, and her 74-year-old father, William Felton, who lived with them. Her daughter, Samantha Kane, who is 20, was critically hurt and remains in critical condition at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. And then her husband, Stephen Kane, was found dead on the couch downstairs. And they believe that he was the first murdered. So, I mean, it's also looked at because, like she said on the phone, okay, everything's going to be packed up. Everything's fine. We're good. We have a place to go. but it looks like nothing was packed. It looked like nothing was prepared, which is kind of insinuated then that Teresa knew like what she was going to do once this happened. I believe they were from Connecticut and they moved to this like I think it's like a big estate kind of thing. It was it's a nice home, but sadly, it's a situation where they just couldn't afford it, and yeah, 3 acre property. Um, but they had moved from Connecticut nearly 8 years ago. But I think she just suffered in this situation in silence, and sadly, she's kind of went into this like family annihilator mode. And I don't want to do the thing. Obviously, podcasters are gonna fucking do this kind of shit where since it's so timely to just compare it to the Murdoch situation. I think there's just sometimes this weird lizard brain thing that can happen, and usually you see it in men, but in the situation it was a woman where there's a snapping, and she got this phone call that the eviction was up and the time's up, and instead of just saying okay, I'm gonna let this happen, she snapped, and you know definitely did the wrong thing. It's a shame, but I know they're doing a GoFundMe. I think there might be a link in this article if you would like to go find that for Samantha Kane. So yeah, I mean, sadly, I definitely didn't want to end on a sour, dour note, but that happens sometimes. But thank you so much for listening. If you've tuned in, I definitely still love the clickers who just tune in just for support. Say, hey, I did it, man. I got you that view. That means everything. Honestly, that's dope. But I also appreciate the people who, they hang out for the whole ride. I like you. You're the best. You're so cool. If you'd like to crank up your support and become a newsie, that's a thing. That's an option. Patreon.com/Isaiah News. You can become a newsie, and that gets you bonus episode content. I do an extra episode every week, and then also there's a fast link, I call it, to the Discord. Granted, Discord is free. You can actually get on there if you just want to ask me for the link. Find me on socials. I'll ship it to you. But yeah, we, talk about food, talk about news, talk about whatever. Also, you can, being a newsie gets you a shout out once a month. You can plug something once a month too. So, that's a thing. We do that. Credit to you. But free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. And then as well, you can find me. I don't know. That was terrible. On Facebook and Twitter, usually. And yeah, feel free to chit chat, whatever. Give me some feedback. Yeah. Also, you can comment on the YouTube. You can comment on the Instagram page. The pictures, whatever. Yeah, that's cool. Sweet. Hopefully, I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye bye. Mwah.